Good. As always, we start with background. Background. Whenever you write an essay, always start with background. Give an overview. Background situation. What you're going to say, don't just jump in on the deep side. Tell the reader what you're going to say before you start. Okay. Okay, the author. So we'll start with the author of the book. Who is the author? According to the book itself, the author was John. But the question is, which John? Two Johns are possible. The one is called John the Evangelist. He's an unknown figure in history, but referred to in literature. So some people believe that this unknown figure, this evangelist, John the Evangelist, wrote the book. And then there's another possibility in that it's St. John the Apostle. Two possibilities. We look at the testimony of the early church fathers, Justin Martyr. He wrote about 40 years after the book was written, so that's not too long afterwards. It's our first testimony, first person to write about this. He says, a man from our midst, named John, one of the apostles of Christ, has prophesied in the revelation that was given to him. That. So he says, he testifies to the fact that the person who wrote Revelation was St. John the Apostle, Justin Martyr, about 40 years after the book was written. These are some problems with this view that St. John wrote the book of Revelation. And the main reason is that the style is so very, very different from both the Gospel and the Epistles. Very different style. The Greek used in the Revelation shows strong Hebrew influence that is not observed in the other works. So when you read the Gospel of St. John, or you read these three epistles, you'll find a good Greek, very good Greek. When you read Revelation, you'll find the Greek is throughout, shows a strong Hebrew influence. Somebody that was Hebrew speaking, that wrote in Greek. So it's immediately clear when you read the book of Revelation. Why would there be this difference between these two? Between the book of Revelation, the style, and the style of the Gospel and the Epistles, if the same author wrote both? What would you suggest? Suggestions? Corinne? Without reading it?
Yeah, but John he spoke Hebrew, right?
Yeah, he was Hebrew.
So why do people say that it was not from him?
Well, because the other works doesn't show this Hebrew influence. It's a good Greek. But
maybe it was because he was open.
It was Okay, let's have a look. There are two possibilities why we can accept him as author. At first, the Gospel and the Epistles were originally written in Hebrew and then translated into Greek. So we can think that it's possible that the Gospel and the Epistles originally were written in Hebrew, actually, not in Greek at all. And it was translated later into Greek by somebody that was a good, a fluent Greek speaker. Okay. The other possibility is somebody helped St. John when he wrote the other works. So he had somebody that assisted him when he wrote it. And we find that quite often, for example, Paul had somebody that wrote for him. He didn't write himself. So in that case, the person would write a good Greek. But when he was on Patmos, he was on his own. He didn't have anybody to help him. And this is reflected, and this book reflects his Hebrew background. Two possibilities. And the age, I don't think that's a good reason, but it's possible. It's not impossible.
Say also that he wrote in Ephesus, in Ephesus?
Well, it's possible after he went back, but I think a large part of the book he definitely wrote on Patmos.
Okay.
Because remember, the angel said, don't write this at one stage in chapter 10. So he definitely wrote down something. So the stuff that he wrote down, probably, maybe, even on Patmos he wrote the whole book. Otherwise, when he went back, he sort of edited and reworked it a little bit. But I think the major part of the book was definitely written on Patmos itself. Why is this book included in the New Testament? This is very important. Okay? So I need everybody's attention. Why is this book included in the New Testament? If it was written not by the Apostle St. John, but by some other John, we would not expect the book to be included in the New Testament. Why? Because all New Testament books have apostolic authority. None, not a single book is included in the New Testament if it doesn't have apostolic authority. This was the primary criterion for acceptance into the Bible. So this is extremely important. The basic rule, the bottom line. Just say again. Okay, they're not. I don't think they're here. We're gonna solve your problem. 1 minute. But how are they gonna? If they don't see this, how are they just gonna listen?
Maybe you can send a PowerPoint to them after this, then they can read tomorrow with you.
Then he's like, ask them to send it to you.
You see, the problem is it's a single document, the whole book of Revelation. And I can't just cut a small bit. I can maybe cut it as a document, but then I must cut it in lots of small documents, the various parts. I don't want to do that really. Yeah? Say again?
Is it too big to send?
No, it's not too big to send, but I don't want to send the whole document at this stage. I first want to discuss the whole document.
Okay, but you don't have to send it to me, it's just for them.
Did you have a look at the lectures on Daniel, on the book of Daniel that I sent you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did everybody have a look? Who did not look at it?
I didn't.
On the server? There was the first version that was posted on the server. There was a small problem in converting it. So right at the bottom you'll see some of the slides, especially the one that at the general overview of history. Right at the bottom, a part has fallen out. So you'll only see Byzantine. When you see that, it's the wrong version. Then you're working with the old version. The new version will have Byzantine Empire and Holy Roman Empire. Just make sure. So the new version on the server does have it. Okay. So you can go through there carefully and read through it.
94 slides.
Remind yourself, 94. Is that a lot? You'll go through it very fast. You've done everything in class. I've done everything. I've discussed all of it. So you'll immediately remind yourself once you see the slide. Oh yeah, I saw that. I remember that. Yes, it's okay. Let's move further. Okay. Because you're all sharp people. Okay, so all New Testament books had apostolic authority, and this is extremely important. No book has been included in the New Testament that does have apostolic authority. No book. If the author was not an apostle, for example, St. Mark and St. Luke, they wrote under the authority of an apostle, for example, St. Peter or St. Paul. So St. Mark wrote under the authority of St. Peter, and St. Luke wrote under the authority of St. Paul. So there was apostolic authority in those cases. The brothers of the Lord were reckoned on an equal footing with the apostles, and that's extremely important. In the early church, the brothers of the Lord were reckoned on an equal footing with the apostles. If you study the history of the early church, you'll find it was a monarchical church, which means the brothers of the Lord were also the leaders with the apostles, but the main leader of the early church was St. James, the brother of Jesus. And after St. James, it was Simeon. He was St. James' sister's child. So it was in the family of Jesus from the family of Jesus that the persons who were in charge of the early church, or maybe not in charge, but who were reckoned as the leaders. Okay.
From the church in Asia, or not?
No, I'm talking about the church in Jerusalem.
Okay.
Only in Jerusalem. Okay, so St. James and St. Jude, you'll find books that they wrote also in the Bible. It's the brothers of Jesus. Same authority. The early church even spoke of the Gospels and the Apostles. So the Gospels, first 4 Gospels, and the rest, everything were written by the Apostles. Nothing that wasn't written by the Apostles. And I've just said the brothers of Jesus were reckoned on the same footing with the Apostles. Okay, the date. When was the book written?
96.
96? You said that? Okay, but we'll first have to find out. How do we get there?
That's in your book.
I know, but why? Why do we give that date? Let's go and see what is the reason. The book was written during a period of severe persecution. We can see that in the various letters to the churches, and we even read right at the beginning that St. John was a companion in tribulation. A companion in tribulation. So it was a very difficult period, and there were a lot of tribulation in the time when St. John wrote the book of Revelation. St. John was himself exiled to the island Patmos due to this severe persecution. This was the reason why he went to Patmos. The persecution is also mentioned elsewhere in the book, for example, in the epistles to the churches of Smyrna and Pergamos. So we know, during that period, there was a severe persecution. The church was severely persecuted. It was very difficult. And Antipas, we read that he died as a martyr. Now the question is, which persecution is spoken of? There were 2 early persecutions that was all over the Roman Empire, where the Christians, 2 periods during the reign of the emperors, during which the Christians were persecuted. And the first was during the reign of Nero, and the second during the reign of Domitian. Emperor Domitian. Nero, he ruled from 54 to 63 AD, and Domitian from 91 to 96 AD, after Christ. The church father Irenaeus, who in his youth had known Polycarp, we've talked about Polycarp, who sat at the feet of St. John, who was a disciple of St. John the Apostle. He writes, it was revealed, that is the book Revelation, not long ago, just before our own time, at the end of the reign of Domitian. So we believe that the persecution referred to in the book of Revelation is not the one under Emperor Nero, but under Caesar Domitian. Therefore, we accept that the book was written in 96, because Domitian, he ruled from 91 to 96.
It can also be 97 or 95.
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay.
Obviously, we don't have that detail. And there is Caesar Domitian, a statue of his, a picture of a statue of his, if you want to be really correct. Let's see where Patmos had been. So this is Asia Minor, Klein Asia, and that is where we find these churches. That's been referred to. We'll discuss it in a moment. And over here is Greece, present-day Greece. Today, this is, which country is that? Klein Asia, where is that? In which country? Jan?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Where is it today? In which country?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Guido, what would you say? In which country are those churches, the remnants of those churches, of the remains of those cities where the churches had been? What would you say, Guido?
I was looking, I'm great at Greek. I'm thinking.
So here's Greece.
Yes.
Next door is the Aegean Sea, and over there, just next door, which country is there?
Ja, weet ik dat.
You don't know?
Krijg je in mijn oren, kijk naar boven, dan komen die 2 zeeën bij elkaar. Turkey, denk ik.
Ah, say Turkey. Beautiful, beautiful. Very nice. It's still in modern day Turkey.
Yes!
Is that Turkije?
Weer een sticker verdiend.
And over here, you'll see a small spot. You see there are lots of isles in the Aegean Sea. And over here is a small spot, it's Patmos. It's about 100 kilometers from Ephesus, the ancient city of Ephesus. About 100 kilometers. There it is.
Wacht, we terug kunnen zwemmen.
Haha, 100 kilometers. That's quite far. So on this map, it seems close, but it's 100 kilometers. That's far. It's quite far. Okay, it's a beautiful place. If ever it's possible for you to visit this isle, it's a beautiful place to visit. And a very nice church and so on. So really try and do it. You can actually visit this because it's part of the Greek Isles. And you know that Greece are part of the European Union. And if you have a passport, the EU passport, you can go and visit that without any problems. You can just go there directly.
I go tonight.
Without any problems. Okay. This just to give you some idea. So let's see what literature type that we're speaking of at the moment. The book of Revelation. What is the kind of literature that we find in this book? Revelation means to unveil, to open, to make known. So the revelation of St. John, it means a revelation, that which is unveiled, that which is opened. Now again, as always, we refer to both the biblical criticism view as well as the evangelical view, and within the framework of evangelical view, we'll discuss various views. We'll discuss the historical school and the futuristic school. And the purpose of these lectures is to give you a broad overview. I want you to be able to engage with anybody from any school in any discussion. Seems good, isn't it? Yeah. So most people that you'll find, for example, if you meet somebody at the marketplace and you start a discussion, and he's from a secular background, you'll most probably give you some of these criticisms coming from the biblical criticism school. That will be his view. That will be the only view that he knows. And if he doesn't know anything about it, you won't be able to really engage with him because you'll be worlds apart. But now you'll have some understanding of the way that he is thinking. And in that way you will be able to engage him on a totally different level. Okay. Biblical criticism regards the book as an apocalyptic work that does not contain any real prophecies about the future. They do not believe that the book contains any prophecies. It's an apocalyptic work. In their view, it was written not by the apostle, by St. John the Evangelist, an unknown author, and he wrote in his own time. The history of his period were included in the book, and no prophecies is involved. Okay. I've said that, what I'm now going to discuss, we've discussed earlier regarding the book of Daniel. The apocalyptic works are characterized by a particular division of history, use of symbols, a revelation of secrets, a pessimistic view of the present, and accentuation of the future intervention by God, future godly intervention. Evangelical Christians regard it as a prophetic book. We believe the book is prophetic. But we do not really have a problem in characterizing it as apocalyptic work, as long as we remember that it's a prophetic work only of an apocalyptic genre. So we can accept the style, but that doesn't negate the prophetic character of the book. Do you know? Yeah. You know what this negates? Yes?
I cannot, it's a little bit too fast.
Okay.
So I missed the whole apocalyptic works.
Oh, apocalyptic works.
Yeah.
How are they characterized?
And he says, go on, but
I
don't
can.
understand myself,
I'll
so
do
I
it.
cannot go
I'll
on.
do it again. It's characterized by a few things. First, the vision of history. So there's a particular way in history that the authors divide history. That's the first thing. The second thing is symbols are used extensively in these kind of works. The third thing, there's a revelation of secrets. So something that's been hidden before is revealed in the book. And in the fourth place, the author typically has a very pessimistic view of the present. For example, they are in persecution, it's difficult times, and there is the expectation of godly intervention, that in time God will intervene and change the situation. So that's the basic characteristic of apocalyptic books. Or we can rather say maybe works of apocalyptic genre. The biblical criticism school views apocalyptic works not as prophetic works. They view it as works that it has no prophetic nature. But we believe that it is a prophetic book, but it's merely in that kind of genre, apocalyptic genre, because when we discussed the book of Daniel, we saw that there's a clear difference between the book of Daniel and the earlier prophets. And maybe the easiest way to understand that difference is to allow for this kind of genre, the apocalyptic genre, which is slightly different from that of the earlier prophets. It's a genre that originated in the time of the exile, Babylonian exile. Some books in the Bible use this genre, the book of Daniel, the book of Revelation, and also some extra biblical books use it. The book of Enoch, the Acts of Enoch, etc. But only the books in the Bible are godly, divinely inspired. Okay? And are really prophetic books. So extra biblical books, that's apocalyptic in nature, it's not prophetic. Evangelical Christians regard it as a prophetic book. The difference is not between apocalyptic and prophetic books like Isaiah, but between extra biblical apocalyptic works like the book of Enoch and prophetic works of apocalyptic genre, in which, in contrast with the earlier prophets, symbols and visions play a central role, as the books of Daniel and Revelation. And just see the notes on the book of Daniel, because we've discussed this in quite some depth already. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. Why a prophetic book of apocalyptic genre? It is explicitly said to contain prophecies. Explicitly. There can't be any doubt about it, because we read right in the beginning of the book, to show unto his servants that which must shortly come to pass. So the book is given to show to his servants what is shortly come to pass, what must shortly come to pass. And then again, chapter 4, verse 1, I will shew thee things which must be here. So I'll show you what will happen after this, in future. If we regard the book as divinely inspired, there's no problem in taking it as an apocalyptic book, as a prophetic book of apocalyptic genre. Okay, is everybody with me? Anybody that's in any sense at this stage not with me, that has a question, that's not happy, that feels disagree or she disagrees, yes, she disagrees, yes?
No. Is Turkey so big as Asia in that time?
Yeah, Turkey is quite a large country.
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite a large country. And I remember Asia in the Bible, it's called Asia, but it's actually Asia Minor. It's Klein Asia that we're really talking about. Asia is a very large continent in our present way of thinking. Okay, I would propose that we take our break now. Or is it too early? Half an hour?
Too early.
Just 5 minutes. Because then I can start with the next lecture.
How do you call blaas?
A break, a blast.
Yeah, I only can pee in the quarter. System is,
Hier is het automaat.
my system doesn't work now yet.
So your system are within this ritual of lectures being a certain length.
It's bladder. Moest I say from
Well, it's your choice. If you want to, I can proceed.
Yeah, first.
yeah, I don't know what it means.
Yeah, till quarter past. I thought maybe because I'm now going to the next lecture, we've gone a little bit faster than I thought. If it's okay with everybody, we can proceed. But remember, now we'll stop in the middle of the lecture, so there won't be continuation as when we do a lecture on its own. That's why I'd rather maybe take a break now, then we can do the lecture as a unit. Is it okay? 5 minutes? And if you have a problem, then I'll allow you to go out of the class, if you really have a problem.
LCFO.